Hi everybody. So I've had a lot of questions asked about being a foreign wife in Japan, and also about like my experiences that I've had being married to a Japanese man and with my Japanese in-laws. And I don't want to get too personal, so I'm gonna I wrote down everything that I want to say, because I don't want to stray off and start ranting, and I really wanted to think about what I was going to say. So I'm sorry if it sounds like I'm reading off this, but I wrote down what I'm going to say, so I'm going to read that. And also, sorry if you hear Ellie. She's been quite talkative lately, and she's probably not very happy that I'm not playing with her, but alright, here it goes. So being a foreign wife in Japan. So I want to start by saying that relationships are hard in general, and I believe that if two people are compatible and they love each other, and they fit, their personalities fit, whatever, then it doesn't matter what cultural background they are, or what language they speak, or any of that, that they're going to get along and have a good relationship. But having said that, cultural differences and difficulties communicating, and as well as the norms that our culture and our family have instilled in us, generally create more problems for multicultural relationships than problems that wouldn't be there if it was two people from the same culture. Culture is something that you don't realize how important it is until you've gone to another country and lived there. Culture shapes us. It's what we believe is right and wrong, normal, beautiful, and ugly, and pretty much everything that we think. And of course our individual personality plays a role in that, but it really does shape who we are. And I made a really fast transition from being an American college student to a Japanese housewife. So for me, transitioning from one way of thought and norms to another was probably the hardest part, harder than being a housewife. So let me give you a little background first. My husband was, well, my boyfriend at the time, met in the summer of 2006 when I came to study abroad for a month in Japan, homestay. And we met and we fell in love then. And I had to go back to America, so obviously it didn't work out. And we didn't really start to date until I came back to Japan in 2009 for the year study abroad through Kansai Gaidai. So my husband and I dated, and we spent a lot of time together, and when I got pregnant, it wasn't hard for us to decide that we wanted to get married and that we wanted to have our baby. But what was hard was, up until that point, I lived my life as a kid, and all of a sudden I became an adult and in another country. So I was a soon-to-be mother and a wife, and my husband and I started to live together, and I didn't know how to cook aside from spaghetti and macaroni and cheese and cereal, and my cleaning skills were passable, and I needed to learn really quick because I was going to be a mom. But something that I definitely resisted was my role as a woman. My husband went to work full-time and I was at home all day, and one day I made him a sandwich. This is a long time ago, mind you. And I thought it was a pretty bitchin' sandwich. It had egg salad on there and bacon and lettuce and all that good stuff. It took me a long time to make, but it was still just a sandwich. And I set it on the table, and he came home from work, and he was so surprised and disappointed and upset that I didn't make a proper meal, and that I didn't have a 3-course meal, not 3-course, but a salad and soup and something made from scratch. And I don't want to make my husband sound like a dick here, but honestly his expectations were completely normal for Japan. He's a working man and I'm a stay-at-home housewife, or I am and I was then. So it was therefore my job to cook and clean, because I wasn't doing anything else, and to prepare that meal properly, not just a sandwich, something beyond that. But the fact that he made it sound like it was my job because I'm a woman was what was really upsetting for me. So luckily, after living together for a while, we found a balance, and I made it clear to him that I wouldn't do those things because I would do those things because I'm not working now, and because I'm not doing anything else, and because he's providing for me, and I wanted help. You know, that's what a relationship is. It's both helping each other. But I made it clear to him that I'm not doing it because I'm a woman. It's because I'm the one that's not working right now. I told him how I felt, and eventually he did understand. And also, after talking with other housewives, I learned what's normal in Japan, and that my husband really didn't expect that much from me at all. Most housewives do a lot. Like, they make dinner that's composed of, for example, like miso soup, potato salad, a main dish, you know, like fish or pasta or some chicken or whatever, you know, nikujaga. They make that from scratch. Usually they make it from scratch. It's not like America where we just throw in some crap here, throw it in there, put some meat in a pan and some sauce and we're done. Like, they really go to town on their cooking. So I began to realize more and more, like, why he was upset. And, like, it's just that his expectation was this and my expectation was that. And we both have these different expectations. He expected that it's normal in Japan that once you get married, the woman does all that stuff. And my expectation was he wouldn't expect that of me because I had never learned how to cook, and all of a sudden, bang, we got married. You alright, baby girl? Sorry, she ate some tissue, I think, but she's okay. So, anyway, we've been living together about a year and a half now, and I would like to say that we really figured out all that stuff. We found a balance. I make dinner, I learned how to cook, and I'm still doing my best to make dinner that's at least a couple of different dishes. And whereas my husband helps me do the dishes about every other day, and he will do the laundry on the days off work. And I don't want to generalize, but men in Japan don't usually help with chores. So, you know, that's the woman's job, but he does help me. So I feel like that we met in the middle, and it did take a little while for us to get to know each other's expectations and also to understand each other better and to make a compromise. As okay, I'm going to learn how to cook, I'm going to do the cleaning, but when you have time, you help me. And he also knows that if I want to work and I'm going to graduate, and if I start to work, that he'll take the part-time job of being a housewife, and he has no objection to that. So and so I am lucky that I have a husband that is willing to meet me in the middle on a lot of things. So I do think that things are starting to change in Japan, and that the younger generation is more like America, and in another 10 years or 15 years, definitely 15 years, I think it'll be completely equal. I've been asked a lot about my in-laws, and I don't want to bring in any personal stories because I respect them and I care for them and I don't want to bash them on the internet. But I will talk about problems that people face with their Japanese in-laws in general, at least from what I know. So I think that because, for example, my mother-in-law's generation is a lot different than mine. There is a big age gap there. On top of cultural differences and language barriers, it can create unneeded tension because their generation was a lot different than our generation as far as equality for women. And we all know that even two people of the same culture have a hard time getting along with in-laws. So throwing in all that other stuff, there's going to be some trying moments. She's shaking her rattle. For me, the hardest thing was the generation gap. I never really had a problem communicating with my mother-in-law, and we got along really well. But the fact that she was raised in an era when women were not equal to men, and I'm married to her youngest son, there are times when I feel expectations from her generation placed on me. But honestly, when you're married to somebody, it isn't your in-laws that you're married to, and it's the decisions that you make are between you and your partner. So I just try to humor her expectations and respect her and her opinion, and in the back of my mind I know my husband and I have our own agreement, and he doesn't expect me to be a housewife, an old school housewife. I'm gonna take this rattle away. No more rattle. Just be noisy. I had to get Ellie a cookie to nibble on because she's being cranky. So another thing that I think is different in America from Japan is, at least from what I know, when a man and woman get married, their relationship and their new family, meaning those two and their kids, are generally like a new family is created, and that new family is of what's most important to you. And of course your parents are still important, but I feel like my parents kind of knew when to back off and let me live my life with my family. Of course they know that they're still important to me and I still love them, but that right now my child and my husband are what I need to focus on. And that the decisions that I make for my family, and that they don't really have a choice in those decisions anymore, because I'm an adult and I live my life with my family. Whereas in Japan, I feel like getting married is more like adding on to that, to your parents' family, rather than separating and making a new family. So when a man and a woman get married, it's just like expanding and not replacing. So the mother and the father-in-law are still really important. And a lot of times the husband's parents will live with the family. That's changing a lot. It's a lot less common today than it was maybe 20 years ago. But I do feel that, for example, a mother and son relationship is closer than in America, and that the in-laws play a more important role, or a stronger role. Again, this is just my opinion, so I hope that no one takes this as fact. And everybody's different, every family is different, but that's just something that I noticed. So, having said all that, I think that if you really love somebody and you marry them, and they love their family and their parents, then it's your job to respect their family and to be kind to your in-laws. So it doesn't matter where you come from, or if you're American or Japanese or whatever. Treating your significant others, important people, with respect, I believe will tighten the bond between the two of you. So now, moving on from some of that intense housewife stuff. So now I'd like to talk about some differences that I faced being pregnant and with Ellie now. And they're kind of silly, mostly like differences in beliefs and wives' tales, but I find them really interesting. So in America, when you're pregnant, they tell you that you should gain between 25 and 30 pounds. Whereas in Japan, they say you should gain up to 10 kilos. Up to 10 kilos. So that's up to 22 pounds. That's below the 25 to 30. And like if you go over that, they say that you're overweight. And I thought that was really interesting, because America told me one thing and Japan told me another. And I gained 12 kilos, so around 26 pounds. So that would have been like perfect in America, but in Japan I remember them telling me like, be careful what you eat, you're gaining too much now. And so it was kind of frustrating. But another difference was like wives' tales. I don't remember exactly what like the boy and the girl rule was, but they say that you can tell the sex of the baby if your belly sticks out in front of you rather than horizontally. So like some people's bellies go long ways and other people's go out in front of them. And I think that it was, if your belly was horizontal, it was a girl. And my belly stuck straight out, so everyone thought that I was having a boy. In America, we say that if you're too hot, in the summertime to wear cool clothes so you don't overheat. And if you're not at a comfortable temperature, then the baby's not comfortable. Whereas in Japan, they say that you have to keep your body warm. So even in the summer, you should wear not too cold clothes. You should wear like layers and to keep your feet warm. And when I was late in labor, they said that my legs were cold, so they put like thermoses on my legs to keep them warm. Maybe for circulation, I don't know, but I thought that was weird. Another thing, in America, we warn against taking baths while pregnant, to only take a bath that's body temperature. But in Japan, they say that babies love nice warm baths, and I've never heard them say anything about the temperature of a bath. Okay, my camera's still. After I had Ellie, I noticed differences with her as well in health concepts. When she was an infant, they say that you shouldn't bring an infant outside until they're 1 month old. And I guess that's not too far. Like in America, they say you should, you know, kind of stay inside for a while. But like when she was 2 weeks old, I'd bring her outside, and like the old ladies that lived in my apartment would like chase me back inside. Like, she's too little, get inside or she's gonna get sick. And the poor little thing, she's gonna get sick. And so I had to like sneak out and like run away and dodge the old grandmas. It was honestly kind of frustrating, but I know that that was just their way of like caring about us. And when she was teething, they would say that her gums were itchy, so that's why she was biting on stuff and drilling. But in America, we say that it hurts. And we also say that babies get a fever when they're cutting a tooth, and that when they're cutting a tooth, they drool more, which is they swallow the drool and then they get diarrhea. And she had diarrhea, so I asked my doctor, like, maybe is it because she's teething? And he said, he like laughed at me. He was like, I've never heard that before. So I get that a lot. Like, same with in Japan. Like, things I hear in Japan, I'll say in America, and people will be like, what are you talking about? So I just decided that to make my own decision on what I think is right for Ellie, and whether or not it's Japanese or American, I take from both. And I really like Japanese healthcare. Like, I only have to pay $5, and I can go to the Ellie's doctor 3 times a month for only $5 each time. And beyond that 3 times, I have to start paying, but my insurance covers everything, medicine and any kind of tests that they have to do. I'm not sure about that, but pretty much everything. So, and I know that American insurance isn't that good, so I'm really lucky there. And I really think that the Japanese are good with kids. Like, they provide all sorts of different information and hotlines, and so that you know what you're doing, including like groups where you can meet with other moms and discuss how to raise children. They're called Kosodate, I think. And they have those at like the Secretary of State type thing, the Kuyakusho. So you can go there and they'll provide free checkups for you, like once a month or once every few months, and they provide a place to meet up with other moms. So I think that the resources in Japan are really wonderful, and even though it can be frustrating, like difference-wise, and also not knowing the kanjis on like documentation, I have to have like somebody with me to help. That's frustrating because I'm her mother and I want to do everything on my own. But other than that, I really enjoy living in Japan, and I think that it's a great place to raise kids. So anyway, I hope that wasn't too much information or too hodgepodge or whatever, but that was my little peek of insight into being a housewife in Japan. So if any of you watching this are housewives or husbands in Japan, I would like to hear your experiences and let me know your stories. So leave me a comment and let me know what you thought of this video, and if it was just totally boring and whatever, I won't do these types of videos anymore. But if you liked it, maybe I'll do another one on something else. So let me hear what you guys have to say. Anyway, have a good day and say goodbye to Ellie because she's kind of pissed off. Mama, pay attention to me. Where'd your cookie go? You didn't eat it already. Where's your cookie? Oh, you ate it?